Okay. So once again, welcome to this September 20th New Mexico Technology Student Association Information Webinar. During today's webinar, we are going to learn a little bit more about TSA, who we are, what we do, why you should join, whether TSA is the best choice for a CTSO for your school. I'm going to try to not talk too much. I want to make sure that I can give the floor to our advisors and to our industry partners as much as possible so that they can talk about the impact that TSA has had in their classroom and or on their workforce or what they hope to see as an impact to their workforce. I'm hoping that my dogs are not going to bark, but if they do, I apologize ahead of time that they are literally right behind me on the couch. You can kind of, if I move my arm, you can kind of see him like showing up in the background here, but I do want to apologize for that just up front, but let's go ahead and dive in. So for today's training, we are going to just do an introduction to TSA, the whys and hows of building a TSA chapter. So that's going to be where I'm going to invite our current advisors to come and speak to you guys. For TSA's wide impact, I am going to open it up to our industry partners. And then we'll go a little bit over affiliation and membership, kind of that process. I know that a lot of people want to know kind of, what are the nuances of getting a chapter started. So we'll go over that. And then I will open it up to a Q&A. If you have any questions, you can either ask them over the Zoom or you can put it in the chat either way, and we'll get to those at the end. So let's go ahead and dive in. So if you're not familiar with TSA, the Technology Student Association is really looking to accelerate student achievement and support teachers by providing engaging opportunities to develop STEM skills. Really, we're trying to teach our students how to lead in a technical world. And so a lot of people hear Technology Student Association and they just automatically assume that we're all just technology. Oh, it's just going to be engineering and robotics and computers. And so many people are so surprised to hear that we have, fashion design and technology. Some of my favorites are children's stories and board game design. And some of those are some of my favorite, especially to judge myself, but to also see these students dive into. So there's a plethora of different ways to engage your students, and it's not just technology. So I just want to get that out first, is that we are not just technology. That's huge. So why would you want to join TSA or bring TSA to your school? Ultimately, it's because TSA provides student members with the opportunity to explore a wide range of, sorry, I think I just realized, am I sharing? Can you guys see my screen? Okay, perfect. So we do provide members with an opportunity to explore a lot of different STEM careers. Like I said, we have fashion design and technology. There's photography, there's videography. We have a new set design and technology degree competition. We're actually looking at doing a 3D manufacturing competition this next year as well, using 3D printers and 3D design. So a lot of different STEM career opportunities. And when I say STEM, again, yes, we're the Technology Student Association, which is that T, but we absolutely hit all of STEM, and even getting, if you want to say STEAM, we have a little bit of that. I believe we even have, if you want to say we have some health, I know we have some biotechnology pieces as well. So a lot of different technology integrations and a lot of different STEM careers. I was just recently at the NMACD conference. If you've never gone to the New Mexico Association of Career Technical Education conference, that's normally this second week of September, I highly suggest it at some point. But it was interesting because they put out a pamphlet that essentially said exactly which career sets all the CTSOs, all the different CTSOs hit on. And so many people came up to me and they were like, I'm so surprised. I had no idea that TSA hit on all of these different careers. And I was like, I know, right? Because I don't know who named it, but maybe they named it wrong. But out of all of that, right, 60 plus middle school and high school events. I think they normally say it's about 74 at this point, and that's not including state competitions. So anything that we do at the state, like the set design or the 3D design or any of those things, those are going to be on top of those particular events. And of course, as with all CTSOs, career technical student organizations, the idea is that you are integrating these into your curriculum. So although, yes, things are going to happen after school, ultimately, the best way to implement TSA and its competitions is through curricular integration. So that's why we call it intracurricular, because we really want it in the classroom. And one of the things that I talk about a lot with TSA is the fact that it's so cross-curricular as well. You don't just have to have one teacher who's involved. You could have multiple teachers involved. One of the great things about TSA as well is it doesn't have to be a technology teacher who's the advisor. And it also doesn't have, those students don't have to be in a CTE class either. This could be an enrichment in their English class. This could be an enrichment in their FACS class. This could be enrichment in their just science class, maybe forensic science. Maybe your science teacher wants to put that competition in. So there's so many different opportunities to cross-curricularly integrate the TSA competitions and the curriculum into your classroom. So really trying to enrich that classroom through that hands-on experience or project-based learning, whichever buzzword you want to use, TSA is probably going to hit on it, right? For our students, being part of TSA is so important. I've heard it multiple times from different TSA students that TSA has really become like their family. This is really where they felt like they fit in. And it's just grown from just being like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be involved in this particular, after school program or whatever. And it's just blossomed into this family. So ultimately, like I said, they get to engage in a wide variety of those STEM competitions. You really have the opportunity to engage a lot of different students, and some of those students that might not necessarily always see themselves as STEM professionals, which is always great, right? We always talk about STEM belonging, and TSA really does lend itself well to making sure that those students feel that sense of belonging. They also get, of course, skills development for career and technical. There is actually a customized leadership program, which we'll talk a little bit about in a little bit later, but there is a whole curriculum for the students to be able to take. And it's an online video program with a corresponding workbook that has lessons that you can integrate directly into your classroom as well. And so a really great leadership program, as well as actual leadership experience, being part of your officers in your chapter, or being a state officer, or hopefully, eventually being national officers. We would love to see that with New Mexico TSA is getting someone to the national office. That would be awesome. Of course, team building, we have the state and national conferences, service projects. There's a national service project, and we also encourage state service projects, which are state officers normally put together. And then, of course, chapter service projects as well. Of course, achievement recognition, I'm pretty excited because I think we're going to 3D print our competition medals this year. So our medals are actually going to be plastics. I don't know what you would call that, but our medals are going to be 3D printed. So we're pretty excited about that. But recognizing their achievement and being able to say, they accomplished something that was not easy. And then networking opportunities with members and industry professionals. So TSA is in cahoots, I guess you could say. We're in partnership with a lot of different industry professionals and really trying to get them out there, being able to get these industry professionals to be able to come and talk to our students, and vice versa, our students being allowed to talk to those industry partners and really get a good idea of what it would take to potentially work in that field or at that particular business itself. Now, of course, we're always there for the students as teachers, but sometimes it's nice to know what the benefits are for you, right? So really, as a teacher and as an advisor, becoming a part of TSA is that curriculum enrichment. It's that opportunity to mentor students, to promote student leadership, to prepare those students for post-secondary. I know so many educators who are just like, I just don't know what else to do in my classroom to prepare my students. And this is a great opportunity to have something that's already created for you, but also has the flexibility to be able to be integrated into whatever your curriculum is. And then, of course, that collaboration with other educators, admin, parents. Parents can be a force to be reckoned with sometimes in schools, and bringing them in as partners is a great way to really try to engage them in a different way versus going against the grain, trying to bring them into the fold. And then, of course, community leaders and those industry partners, and being able to meet people that can really start to enhance your curriculum even more, and bringing people in that sense. We have a lot of partners that we would love to connect with you. So again, of course, we're here for the students, but there's absolutely some benefits for you as well, and not just your admin saying you have to do this. Like, we really do want to make this a great experience for all involved. So I talked a little bit about this earlier, but this is that leadership curriculum. So TSA actually partnered with Kent Julian, who is a nationally known youth motivational speaker, to create a whole video curriculum on 21st century skills and leadership skills. And these are the main ones that he hits on. But it's an amazing curriculum that can be integrated across your school. We actually have a school that is affiliated, that their counselor actually uses this and implements this within her curriculum and within her leadership. So this doesn't just have to be within your chapter. Now, of course, the only people who have access to this are members of TSA. So this particular school actually has all of their students as members within the Technology Student Association. So every single student in their school has access to this curriculum, and it really works for them. And that's absolutely something you could partner with a counselor to do, to not only enhance your students, but enhance your school in general, and really getting this leadership component across. And so that's hopefully really all that I'm going to talk, unless we have some Q&A or at the end when we're talking about membership. I don't really want to talk too much. So we're going to jump right into actually hearing from our advisors today. So if you are a seasoned advisor, an advisor who's been here for a little bit of time, and you're willing to kind of talk about your experience with TSA, maybe the whys, why you chose TSA, why you feel like TSA was the best choice for your school, and then some of the hows, if thinking back on your first year of being an advisor, like what you wish you would have known as you were kind of transversing the adventure of trying to get a TSA chapter started. So I'm going to open it up to the floor, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Hopefully I can figure that out because my screen is being weird. There we go.
I'll go just to minimize awkward pauses. But Lindsay's hand was up, so maybe Lindsay should go first.
I can go. I'm in the car, but I was just raising my hand just to make it easier. I am sorry, I'm in the PJs. Today was PJ day. We're homecoming week. So can you hear me okay? I'm in the car. Yeah. We're good? Okay.
Oh, you're muted now, Lindsay.
Hey, there we go. Being an advisor is really one of the most rewarding things I do as a teacher, is through TSA. Being able to see these students build up into amazing leaders, because they do it within themselves. It's just a natural progression with TSA, how they build themselves within leaders, to a point like it's a little hard. We had a hoax 911 active shooter at our campus on Friday in the middle of our TSA meeting. And these kids became leaders within the classroom in an emergency situation. So even like putting it in perspective of like real life, what these kids are gaining within TSA is amazing. These students, incorporating it into the classroom, I have found it gauges more interest to build a club, not necessarily a requirement for my students. but being able to create fun, interactive leadership skills within the classroom with the 21st century skills is amazing. And all I can attest to, no matter how big or small your chapter is, you are going to impact a student in a way that you would not be able to without it. So I'm always here as a reference for teachers. I've been doing this. This is my 7th year in TSA. Oh, that's a long time. I'm getting old. But above all, it's for our kids and building them into be better humans with an outlet to advance their knowledge, leadership, and everything. And also, I'm a fine arts teacher. Not many people understand that. Like, I'm a fine arts teacher. I'm not a CTE teacher. And I don't get all the awesome grants the CTE teachers get. So yeah, so you can do it without being a CTE teacher.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lindsay. If you were at NMACD and you heard me talk about the teacher who does the grazing, that's Lindsay. Lindsay is a great example of how you can still integrate TSA into your classroom, even if you're not CTE, even if you're not science or technology or anything like that. As a fine arts teacher, she finds a way to do it. And it's very, it's awesome to see. And she had a wonderful team in the fashion design and technology that actually was able to, and Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were top 3 at nationals in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And we took first place children's story in 2021.
Yes. First place children's story 2021. That happened to be actually our state president who won that particular first at nationals. We were super excited for that. So we've had some great things come out of Lindsay's chapters and all of our chapters, but specifically those are the ones that have done. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see their awesome Frozen costumes in 2019. That was my first nationals conference. So top 3 in that. So some amazing stuff. So Sunny, I would love to have you speak about it.
Oh, sure. Well, she's a tough act to follow. I was just going to be very literal. The why TSA was a good fit for our school. So our school has a STEAM focus, and we had to start a CTSO as part of a grant, and the only CTSO on campus was FFA, which didn't quite fit the technology grant we had gotten. So we looked at our options, and TSA seemed to fit the best with the technology grant. We also already had a robotics program and some students in pre-engineering classes. So it was just a good fit. And I'm glad that it was a good fit, because as I learn about other CTSOs, I think that it really was the best choice for us. And the how, I would say, for recruiting students and getting them into your TSA, which might not be an option for some schools, because I think like Lindsay's school is maybe only a high school, but our school is pre-K through 12. And I think the best strategy that we've had for the how is to start recruiting students very young. We have started recruiting students in 6th grade, and we found that the students who became part of our TSA chapter in middle school are the students that stay year after year and really show that leadership growth and continue to stay with our chapter as they enter high school. And I agree with Lindsay that the change in the students from the time they joined TSA to now, for students that have been in for a few years, is really incredible to see how they're taking leadership, taking responsibility, not only within TSA, but within the school as a whole. If they need to step up and do something, they'll step up and do something. When we have guests, they're happy to give guests the tours. When we have special events, they're happy to help set up and tear down. They've been really good leaders in our school. And I guess another tip for the how is to start early, start fundraising early, because everything costs money for competitions and supplies, and to start planning and for competitions early, because if you can build the competitions into your class or into your extracurricular club, even as early as right now, September, October, then it gives the students a lot more time to prepare, refine their competition, to read all of the guidelines and make sure they get their portfolio together. Because I think for our first 2 years as a TSA chapter, we didn't give ourselves enough time, and it was just we were missing a lot of things that we got point deductions for just because we were like, oh no, we didn't have that. Now we have to do it last minute and it didn't happen. So those are some tips.
That's really great advice, Sunny.
Absolutely. I did walk through one of the competitive events guides during our advisor academy, but I would be more than happy to walk through that with you as well, or even with you and your students. But one of the things that I do have to say about TSA based off of what I've seen from some of the other career technical student organizations is just how step by step the competitive events guides are. So much so that it literally says students will go to a designed room and do this. Students will do this. And not only is that helpful for the state office, because then we can run our conference exactly how nationals is going to be run, or as close to as possible. But that also gives the advisors and the students a really good idea of what's required and what's there. But I might do that as another webinar, because it does take a little bit of time to walk through those, or at least a video, if not another webinar, just to make sure that we're really stomping down this year on getting through those competitive events guides. But that is absolutely a benefit of TSA, is how detailed the competitive events guides are. Are there any other advisors, new or old, as Lindsay says, that would like to talk about their experience with TSA, why TSA was good for their school, the best CTSO, or any advice for new or potential advisors?
I'll go. Claire, I said I couldn't get on with you, and I realized my conference, my Zoom with the state is at 4:30. So I think I'm going to double dip here and have two screens going. So this is going to be my fourth year doing TSA, my third year actually competing, but really my first full year to actually fully commit. So last year I joined I was voluntold during COVID, and then we did the remote. And then so last year it was kind of my first step into the water in person, and didn't really put a whole lot of time into it. I just had some kids in one of my coding classes, and I was like, you guys want to do this thing with me? Let's, pick something. And the level of student engagement completely blew me away. And that they were able to work on this project all year. And then the products, they were so incredibly proud of what they made. And I've never seen that in my entire career. I've never seen student engagement the way I did with this group of kids. And then we got to go to nationals, which was absolutely fantastic. And I had a little group of, I think, 7 total on my roster last year. This year I had my first TSA meeting, and I told the kids, all right, come into my room after school. And of course I went and got my water, went to the bathroom and everything when the bell rang. I came back in and my room was standing room only. Like, the word had gotten out, and all of the kids were like, Ms. New, we want to do TSA, we want to do it, which absolutely blew me away. Another thing I love about it is that it catches kids that wouldn't be caught in an academic competition otherwise. So it's not just your gifted kids or the ones that are looking at valedictorian or the ones that are looking to go to college. I have kids who never stay awake during my math class, who want, and are always on the F list, who want to do TSA, and they're committed to it, and they come every week and they're texting me about it. So I found that it's a really great way to catch kids that couldn't otherwise be caught. And I agreed with Sunny on what I hope I said your name right, about what she was saying about it encourages student leaders as well. Like, I've got kids who are stepping up to lead in a way that I've never seen before. Of course, Jonathan's mine, and it absolutely changed his life. I mean, the difference in that kid from before, he's our state president, from before he went to that leadership training over the summer till afterwards. I mean, I've known him since he was in 8th grade, and it was an enormous change in him that, I mean, I just can't believe it. And so I'm all sold out now. We got our middle school on board. And so we're all about it. I feel like I'm evangelizing for TSA. I feel like it's a cult. I told my kids it feels like a cult, and now I've joined it, and that's not me, but I'm kind of in it now. So anyways, I love it.
And you can leave your shoes on in this cult, so we're good.
No white robes. I don't have to pledge allegiance to anybody except for myself. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, we wear shoes. We wear blue shirts to our conferences, not robes. Yeah, we you drink the Kool-Aid. I think I have too a little bit, to be for lack of a better term. That's kind of morbid, but I mean it's true. Once you figure out the power of what TSA can do for your school, it's amazing. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about their experience with TSA?
I could go for PCA. My name is Jenna McKinley, and I work for the virtual school for New Mexico for one of them, Pecos Cyber Academy. And last year was our first year to start a TSA team. And the number one thing that I would say is to start small. If you can help it. I know some of you guys have a lot, like you say, of interest in the group, but just starting with a few contests and then working your way into doing more, later on as you go. I think that was kind of how we started. We got started with one because we didn't really know what the expectations were going to be like, and we figured out what needed to be done, what everything should look like, and then it was easier for us to pick up contests as we go. So that's what worked for us. And then another thing that I would suggest is to judge if you can. Get with Clara in advance before the state competitions and judge for some of the competitions that your students aren't in. And that was something for me. I did animatronics last year, and that was one of the ones that we didn't sign up for because I thought that was one of the more challenging ones, and I wasn't sure my students were quite ready for that yet as our first year. But just being a judge and being able to go in and kind of see in the background what was expected and what the other schools turned in, I was able to see, have a better idea of what I would need to do and how much time I can see my classes doing it. Because I know you guys probably meet every day in brick and mortar where my classes are meeting, 2 to 3 times a week. So I would have to pace out some more time or different meetings. It helped me visualize what that would look like and what supplies I would need, my budget, all those types of things, just being able to volunteer for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have really had an idea if I didn't volunteer. So I would highly recommend volunteering for a contest that your students are not participating in if you can.
Absolutely. And I promise I do put you in competitions that your students are not in. If you volunteer, I will really try to make sure that does not happen as much as possible. And, of course I'm human, so there are mistakes that occur, but I do try to rectify those as much as possible. But I do try to put you, if you're willing to, absolutely jump on. It's a completely different experience to be on the judging side of everything. And then, like we talk about, trying to go to nationals is huge too. Being able to see nationals is a whole other beast once you're able to go. But is there anyone else who would like to talk about their experience? Otherwise, I'm going to move to our industry partners. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, as me as a chair says. Alice, would you like to speak about any of your experience with TSA and the impact, or the impact that you're hoping to see from it?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Alice Carruth. I'm the Public Information and STEM Coordinator Officer for the New Mexico Spaceport Authority, the agency that runs Spaceport America. I joined TSA, 2 years ago now, Clara, to kind of listen in and see how we can start to help. We run the world's largest rocket engineering competition at Spaceport every June. But we're already interested in getting New Mexico students involved in STEM education at a much younger age, and events like the TSA competition are perfect for that. As much as you're not focusing so much on aerospace at the moment, you are looking at building things, you're looking at developing teamwork, you're looking at all the different aspects of how to create different roles within that group as well, which then leads into competitions that can run into university level, like the rocketry competition that we have, the Spaceport America Cup. And then that often leads into workplace opportunities And as much as the NMSA group only employs about 22 people, our customers have about 300 people that work full time at the spaceport. And it's important when we're looking at customers coming into the state that they know that there is a good talent pool that they can recruit from here in New Mexico. People don't want to have to bring people into the state. So we've learned very quickly that it's important to engage at a younger age. I'm really excited to hear that there's more middle school students getting involved. I didn't realize it was as young as 6th grade, but certainly we do outreach from kinder all the way up through 12. And we hope that we'd see in the future some kind of aerospace component to that, because it's not just us at the spaceport. We have Boeing landing at White Sands Missile Range down here in the south. Obviously, what everyone's doing up at Sandia Labs and Los Alamos and Kirkland Air Force Base. There is an aerospace that runs throughout the entire state of New Mexico. And the more we can do to get students involved in that and excited about that at a young age, the more likely they are that they're going to work in aerospace in the future. And I am particularly glad that Clara is always mentioning that it's not just engineering that we're talking about. As a communicator myself who does not have a science degree, I think it's really important for students to understand that there are careers in STEM fields that don't necessarily need to have engineering, mathematics, technology degrees to be able to work in that area. You just have to have a passion and an interest in it. So we're here just to kind of be a supporter, to be able to answer questions and hopefully get the students excited about what they can do in the future. And if I can do anything more for any of the teams, let me know. That's what I'm here for.
And Alice has been nice enough to serve on our advisory council for a couple of years too. So it's been great to just have so many different industry partners, whether they have an engineering, like you said, technology background, or just within, within STEM, within tech, and having other backgrounds. It's great to see. We also have partnered quite significantly with Ganymede Games. Jerry Prokoska is not here today. He was going to be here, but he's actually also on. He's just joining our advisory council this year. So we're really excited to see Jerry. And he is actually the CEO and founder of Ganymede Games, which is an animation company in Las Cruces. And he is just super passionate about the video game design competition and also the board game design competition, because he's a avid board gamer from what I've heard. But great contacts within the media area, great contacts within even oil and gas, like you said, aerospace, engineering. We really do try to partner with as many people as possible. We're especially with our set design competition trying to get more into the film industry. So that's really, we're partnering with Stagecoach Foundation to really try to get some stuff out at the state level. And then, really just trying to connect. One of the really awesome things about TSA, because of how vastly flexible our competitions are, especially at the state level, is one of our initiatives is to try to get as many industry partners as possible to have build state competitions. They might not be at the national level, but we can absolutely do it at the state level to connect directly with the industry within New Mexico. So that's why we're looking at, 3D printing manufacturing type of things. Alice, I actually was just talking to a teacher who does Systems Go, the rocketry curriculum, and we were even talking about how could TSA partner with Systems Go to try to get something going when it comes to rocketry. And of course, the minute that I said that we do have flight design and it at least has wings, they were like, oh, we're super excited then, because there's at least some aerospace. It might not be space, but it's aerospace. So we do have some, but we would absolutely love to engage a little bit more in the aerospace, especially with how big it's getting in New Mexico. So we have some cool stuff, some very cool things coming up. The other thing is Nationals did just start a drone competition. I'm not sure if we're going to do it at the state level. I'm just putting it out there right now, just logistically. But if your students are interested in that, we can definitely talk about it and move forward with that. So if you have any interest, please, email me if that's something that your students were really looking at doing, and we can figure something out. I might just need some people to help me with the logistics on that, because it just sounds super complicated. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Anyone else want to Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at drones, but needed guidance. So one of the cool things about this particular competition, from what I've heard, is you do not have to have an FAA certification to do this competition. And we technically could do it at our state conference because the idea is to have it in a contained area. So we would actually use like a tent with like netting around it and make like a net. So then you wouldn't actually, you could do it inside, you could do it outside because it's contained. Technically you're not like free flying it. And I guess that's the way that they get around those regulations. So we will, if you have interest, we will absolutely look into the drone competition. One of the other new ones that we're very excited about is audio podcasting. So if you have any students that are interested in podcasting, that's a new science or a new high school competition. And then, so side note, like squirrel, TSA is pretty cool about every other year they change either the high school or the middle school competitions. So they either change the name of them, they add ones, or they do some type of reworking of them. So now instead of scientific visualization, they're calling it VR, right? They're calling it virtual reality visualization. So it's the same competition, they changed the name. But we added audio podcasting, we added the drones. And then the other one that they added is, in the past, we've done junior solar sprint, which is just for middle school racing solar cars. And they've increased that to go through high school. So it's now 6th through 12th grade. You can race the solar cars through what they're just calling solar sprint now versus junior solar sprint. It's both. So those are some of the new ones. Thank you, Lindsay, for telling me to slow down. I'm trying to get through this and I talk really fast anyways. But yeah, so those are some of the new competitions coming up. Let me get to sharing my screen again, because I did want, just for those who are new, there is a promotional video that I wanted to share that just gives a little bit more information on TSA and some of the things that we have with TSA. So I'm going to go ahead. Can you guys hear that? Just want to make sure before okay, perfect.
The Technology Student Association, TSA, is a national organization for middle and high school students interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. TSA provides curriculum-integrated STEM experiences to affiliated schools through its competitions as well as its leadership and career awareness activities. A recognized career and technical student organization, TSA offers more than 70 STEM-related competitions to its membership. These competitions can be integrated into classroom instruction and are the basis for entries at regional, state, or national conferences. TSA student members learn and practice 21st century leadership skills using lessons and activities accessible on a password-protected site. Also available are technology-based resources such as videos and PowerPoint presentations. Through TSA, members stay connected by interacting with other students in the TSA community. When teachers incorporate TSA into their STEM curriculum, they describe how easy the resources are to integrate and include in lesson plans. They note the high engagement level of their students, and teachers convey that being a TSA chapter advisor is a rewarding professional experience. TSA's affordable membership will enhance the opportunity for STEM experiences at your school. A designated TSA chapter advisor simply provides an affiliation invoice to begin the process. Access to all program materials starts as soon as payment is received. If available, local CTE Perkins funding may be used. Thank you for considering a TSA chapter as part of your school year.
So that was just a little promo just to show you a little bit more about TSA. So we did have one question that I just wanted to get to really quickly, and that was, how do students engage or have access with our industry partners? So one of the ways that they engage with our industry partners is, of course, by being in our competition. I really do try to make sure that we have industry people as judges. Besides, you know, of course, I need my other volunteers and I need my advisors, but for the most part, I do try to have at least one industry specialist who is one of the judges for the competitions. We are in the process of also hopefully having webinars every once in a while that industry partners can actually come and talk and students can ask questions. So that's absolutely an initiative that we're looking. We tried to do it. We tried to do it last year as well, but this year I'm really trying to focus on getting those industry partners in front of your students in more of a proactive view versus just at the state conference. So also, if you have a student who might be struggling with a particular competition, if I have an industry partner or someone who might be able to help and mentor them, that's always an option as well. Reaching out to me and asking me, hey, you know, there's no one around me who's a content specialist. I'm absolutely not a content specialist in this particular field. Do you have a contact? That's absolutely another way to get in with industry and really try to get access to those industry partners. So for the last little bit until Q&A, I just wanted to go over really quickly how to start a TSA chapter if this is something that you're interested in. The first part is super simple. You're going to actually just click on this chapter membership button, which is on the TSA site. So if you go to tsaweb.org, which I can always share with you, that's the national website. There's a button in the top right-hand corner that says join or log in. And this is the screen that it will take you to, the TSA membership system. You'll click on chapter membership and you will request a chapter. Or if you are a new advisor, but for a school that has already had a chapter in the past, there's also the option to just request another sign-in. You'll fill out the information and you'll request that chapter. Once you've requested, you will receive an email with your chapter login information. At that time, you can actually log into the membership site. And then under quick links and help, there is actually a guide to show you exactly how to affiliate from that point forward. I can also share that with you. So there's some options with that. Of course, once you've done that, you can request your PO for your affiliation dues. Just so you're aware, when you go through the system, it is going to say invoice when you put in through the affiliation. So if you need a quote for your financial your business manager, if you need a quote versus an invoice, email me and I can absolutely get you a quote so that we can, get that through the way that your system works. You'll add your student and then of course you'll submit your affiliation. One of the things that I did want to bring up when it comes to sending your dues and the check is if you're able to have access to that check at any point in time, or if you know the person who's going to be sending that check, if you actually send a copy of that check, like take a copy of it, photocopy it, whatever, and send that to the national office before you actually send the check, it just makes the process a little bit faster. So that's something that they're suggesting, is to take a picture or photocopy of the check, send that to nationals so that before you even send the check, so that they're aware that that's coming, and then it just kind of makes the process go a little bit faster. Of course, once you've completed your affiliation, that's when you would recruit. There are a lot of different resources to recruit, including, I did want to bring this up, that we do have some facts. So this is something that you guys have access to as well. There's the facts sheet that will talk a little bit about TSA in general. We actually have quite a few student members across the nation. And so there's the facts sheet. There is the TSA brochure if you chose to print this out for your students, or as you're fundraising, this is a great option as well. There is this teacher recruitment so that you can actually put in your name and your contact information for your students to come in and find you. And then there's so many other options, but those are absolutely some of the ones that you have just to start to recruit students. Hold info sessions for sure. Invite, if you have an officer, if you have a leader who's, for a fact is going to be one of your champions, invite them to come and speak to students, get them on board. Right. Make sure that you're promoting through many different classes. Don't just talk to your own class, because this is so cross-curricular that you could go talk to your arts teacher, your arts classes, or your computer classes, or your science classes, and really try to bring members in through other classes as well. The other option you have is if you would really like one of our state officers to talk to your students, they are available. So if you have a desire to have your a state officer come and talk, if they're in the area, we can always send them to the school. But if they're not in the area, you know, Zoom has opened up so many opportunities for our state officers to come and talk to your students or potential students and really try to get them on board. And then it's time to plan. So one of the biggest things for TSA when you start to integrate it into your curriculum is that the themes and problems are something that you have access to for free. You do not have to be affiliated to have access to these themes and problems. Once you're affiliated, you would have access to the competition guides. But for the themes and problems, these you have access to right now, and these are on the national website. So if you go to the national website, you'll be able to already see some of the themes and problems. So for instance, children's stories, which again is one of my favorites, the theme this year is to create an interactive book for children in 1st through 3rd grade that promotes a career as a STEM teacher. So there are some skills or some knowledge that the students would need in order to be successful at this children's story competition that you could start to integrate into your curriculum already. So really looking at some of those things, like they would have to kind of know about careers as a STEM teacher or as a teacher. They would need to know a little bit about children's reading levels at 1st through 3rd grade. So there's some things that you could go ahead and start what Lindsay calls as graze through these themes and see what particular subject matters you could automatically add in. Say if you're trying to do coding, there's so many different options for coding, right? So these are the different programming languages that can be used to complete the problems. So you could use C, C++, Java, Python. So if you in your coding class wanted to just start to show students how to code within these programs, that would be the start to start grazing in. Like you might not know the actual problem that's going to happen, come state conference, national conference, but you know what languages they're going to need to know. So you could absolutely start to kind of graze those into your curriculum and really make sure that the students are prepared. And then of course, finding those student leaders. So, it's called a career technical student organization. And one of the things that I like to remind teachers of is the fact that as a student organization, the goal is to eventually be a student-led organization. That's why we call you advisors. We don't call you the chapter leader. We call you the chapter advisor, because you're really just there to advise the students as they are starting to, figure out how they want to run the chapter. For instance, our state officers, like during the meeting, I might be there to kind of help them stay on the meeting goals. And I, had to begrudgingly show them how to go through Robert's Rules of Order, but ultimately they got to the point where they run that meeting and they have the ideas and they're moving forward. They're the ones that are like, these are the things that we want to do for the state that we think are going to be better, including the Discord, right? They said, you know what, we need better communication. We need to be able to have access to the advisors. How do we want to do this? Well, we want to do that through Discord. So you really do give them that opportunity to practice those leadership skills by having the student leaders, the chapter officers within your chapter as well. There are a lot of resources, free resources that are available to you right now. So if you wanted to go and just kind of check through some of those, the nmtsa.com, that is our state website. There are chapter resources. And if you go to the resource folder, that actually already has some stuff in it from this past weekend, because I wanted to make sure that you guys had some information in there. So if you looked at this, you would be able to see that there is already the affiliation guides in here. I have the pin design competition in here. There's already the executive council candidate application available if you have students that are wanting to be state officers next year. I did put the PDF from the Advisor Academy And then the dress code for our particular state conference. So there's some things in here that you already have access to, in addition to the free resources that you have through TSA in general, which is actually going to be, they just moved it, but it's right here. The TSA brochure, the TSA promotional PowerPoint, the TSA promotional video. There's my dog. So you have some free access to things until you get your affiliation going. But ultimately, you have resources that you have available to you. And you can find these both on the New Mexico website and the national website. And then as stated, the total TSA is all of the competition guides and all of those resources. And that's not available until you are affiliated. And then I just want to leave you with, before we go into Q&A, my 5 tips for new advisors. Number 1, don't take it all on. When you hear, 30 plus competitions for every level, that seems super overwhelming. And so as Jeanne talked about, pick a few different competitions that you want to provide to your students, right? We highly suggest that your students, number 1, don't pick more than 6 to do their first year, especially. We do suggest that you encourage them to do at least 3, but definitely don't have them do more than 6. And then you yourself can limit that a little bit, right? Don't look at all 30 of them and go, how can I integrate all 30 of these into my classroom? It's not doable. Pick a few that you're really going to focus on and integrate into your classroom. And then down here at number 4, where it says foster your students' passion, right? One of the things that I was always proud of as a teacher, although I think my students always thought that I was kind of mean, is that I fostered my students' own ability to find answers. And I really did try to push them to figure out how to do something. And students are scrappy. And I always say this, like, your students are probably at home. No, they might not be reading your textbook or doing your homework, but they're probably on YouTube watching some ridiculous video on how to learn something that they were interested in, right? They're scrappy. They're going to find a way to learn it, even if you're not a content specialist or you didn't particularly say you can do this. If they're interested in something, they're going to go and figure it out. Connect with the other chapter advisors. So as I said, the Discord is a great place to do this. Reach out. Although, by the time state conference comes around, there might be some, friendly competition. For the most part, all of the advisors are here to make sure that as a state, New Mexico is successful, both at the state level and then at the national level. So if you have questions, reach out to those other advisors, recruit those additional teachers into your school. I talked about cross-curricular. Recruit other teachers. Say, hey, this isn't just something that could benefit my classroom, but it could absolutely benefit yours. It could benefit our entire school. Let's do this. And this works really well. I've been noticing a lot with some of those smaller schools that have multiple levels, or even charter schools or things like that. Like it's been working really well at that integration. And then I already talked about grazing, but I put it in there as well. So those are my 5 tips. So I want to run into Q&A really quick as we're kind of finishing it up. Alice did put in the chat here that there is a platform to reach out to Spaceport. So make sure that you check that out. And then Saul, who is one of our seasoned advisors, says that if you have any questions, please reach out to him. He's actually the advisor at Santa Teresa High School, which has a very robust program and would be a great asset. So there's Saul right there. Any questions? Our new Lindsay's watching you. Our potential advisors that are here, do you have any questions for myself or for some of our seasoned advisors who are on here that we can answer for you?
I wanted to ask you guys about the service projects. What kind of service projects are there?
So there is the National Service Project, which is the Association of American Health something. It's the Heart Association.
American Cancer Society.
Is it the Cancer Society this year?
Yeah, that's what it's been for the last several years. So it's American Cancer Society. And in what we do is we try to do a event, like we'll do like a video game tournament or something like that at school, where we try to raise funds for that. And then do donations for the National Service Project. And locally, I try to partner up with another CTSO to ensure that our students are doing some kind of volunteer work or aspects around there. So here in Albuquerque, this year, we're going to be volunteering at Roadrunner Food Bank around the holidays to ensure that we're helping our kids. So I always try to get a community aspect in my chapter, so that the kids can build in, like it's more than them, this is more than you. So we don't always do the American Cancer Society for our local chapter for ourselves, but we do that.
Very cool. Thank you. We've enjoyed at Pecos Cyber Academy. We're all a virtual school, and I worked at the middle school last year. And it was so much fun to get to work with TSA. I appreciate you guys. We've been, in my family, I've always done a lot of, extracurricular stuff, Boy Scouts and marching band and just whatever the kids were in. And this felt like coming home because my kids are all in their 20s now and they're engineers and business people and all kinds of wonderful lives. But then I'm like, what does mom do afterward? Because I work in a virtual school, so there's not a lot of volunteering and there's not a lot of, but TSA was like, oh, these are my people. And Clara was very patient and took great care of us, and we got to judge, and my middle schoolers were like ready to go publish their book with the publisher. They're so cute. We don't have much administrative support at times. So we don't have a middle school this year, but maybe in the future, and we're going to keep holding on and keep trying to build up our team. So I appreciate you guys for all the guidance and time.
Absolutely. And Desiree, I did put that American Cancer Society Service Project PDF in the chat. So you're welcome to check that out. But that's the National Service Project. Our state officers are actually in the process of trying to put one together as well. I believe the state officers try to do a state one every year as well. Whether, I'm hopeful that it actually comes to fruition this year, but as we know, students are so busy these days. I'm hoping it'll happen, but if we can get that going, you'll get some more information about that here soon as well.
And thank you, Lindsay, too, for telling me about the video game tournament to raise funds. That could be done easily in a cyber school. So we'll
absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, those that are potential or new advisors? Do we have any questions? Saul and Lindsay are still on. And then I can answer some questions as well if I know the answers. Normally I try to be like, hey, advisors, do you know the answer to this? Any other questions that y'all have, you can put them in the chat if you don't want to unmute. So I'll fill the silence for a little bit. Oh, David, do you have a video that introduces TSA to students? So that is going to be the one that I showed during this meeting. There is a promotional video, and I will absolutely share that with you all. I believe it's also on the national website, if I'm not mistaken. Give me 1 second, because I want to say that I did see it. Yes, I did. And I'll put this in the chat for you all. But this is the promotional video that you can use to introduce students. And that was created by Nationals. And then again, if you have any questions, our state officers can potentially come in and answer those for you as well. If there's a webinar that you want to do with our state officers, they're a great resource to try to recruit students. So we did have a question. There is a chapter due Then we recruit. Do we have to pay for each member, or the money covers the whole team? So that's a great question. We're going a little over time, but I would rather go over time than not answer your questions. So let me bring up our dues really quickly. Let me share this with you all. The chapter dues are based off of your needs at your school. So a red cap membership is going to be up to 10 students, and that is a flat fee. So red cap is a flat fee. And then you have up to 10 members. You don't have to have 10 members, but you can have up to 10 members. White cap is going to be the one that is the most flexible in the amount of members, sort of, not the most flexible. It's going to be the flexible amount, right? But the thing that I like to make sure that people know about white cap is that if you have, especially if you have more than 40 members, or you're looking at affiliating all of your students in a particular class, or you're really trying to get a lot of students involved, as you add more students, you're having to then do new PO every time you add a new student. And so it can get a little cumbersome as a white cap institution, just because if you add a new student, you have to then do another invoice, do another PO, and pay out for that particular student. Blue cap is actually going to be the most flexible, and that is that unlimited. So that's an institutional. If you're planning to use Perkins funding for your affiliations, which if your district has Perkins funding or your school does, and you want to petition to use Perkins for your affiliation fees, that's going to be blue cap. Because that is considered an institutional affiliation, which is covered by Perkins, and that's unlimited. So that's where you can do, as many students as you possibly want. That's where Pecos Cyber Academy this past year did all of their students in their high school to be members. We have a couple that do, all of their engineering students that are in Project Lead the Way. So they do a blue cap because they have, more than 40 students, because at about 40, that's where you're no longer, you're paying more, right? You're paying more per student, especially if you have over 40 students. So that's kind of where that trade-off is. For all of them, it's about $22 per student, but if you have over 40 students, it's absolutely more cost effective and much easier on you as an advisor to just try to do the blue cap if you have the opportunity to. If you are a new school, like you've never affiliated or you haven't affiliated within the last 3 years, let me do a new share, I'm just sharing my PowerPoint. If you are completely new or haven't affiliated within the last 3 years and you're just doing a red cap, you just want to start a chapter, there is a thing called the Champion Fund. And the Champion Fund is going to be for if you are a Title I school and you're new or haven't affiliated within the last 3 years, you can qualify to have your red cap paid for. Your national red cap paid for. So this is a way to save some money on funds as you're trying to start a new chapter. This is a great opportunity. Additionally, if you are in Doña Ana County and you are interested in doing these solar sprint, so whether you're doing middle school or high school and you're interested in doing that competition, I do have some limited funds to help you out with your affiliation. So definitely reach out to me because I can also help you but you do just caveat there, you do have to commit to competing in this solar sprint with at least one team to be able to qualify for the support. It's from El Paso Electric. So that's why it's Doña Ana County. And so that's affiliation and dues. Did we have any other questions about dues? I can really quickly just go over a new share, some additional things to consider. So some other expenses that you can think of is travel, especially if you're going to be coming to the state conference face-to-face, which I always highly recommend. But we are still going to have a hybrid conference. There are still going to be some hybrid events. Not all of them are going to be hybrid. So if you have students that are really interested in some that can't be hybrid, then of course there would be travel expenses. You would also have material costs. So depending on which event, like if you're doing fashion design and technology, you're going to have material costs. You might even have to purchase, a specific sewing machine. I don't know. You have some equipment costs potentially. And then of course, uniforms. So one of the things that I do want to put on for uniforms is you can of course have your students pay for the uniforms. You yourself can purchase, the uniforms for your or a particular student a uniform. But if you are thinking about using Perkins funding to purchase your uniforms, you can do that, but they need to be like a football jersey or a choir robe, right? They need to be checked out for the year and then returned at the end of the year, just like you would with any other school uniform that is provided by the school. So you do have the options to use Perkins funding for the uniforms for the competitive event garb that we need, the blue shirts or the blazers. You have the opportunity to use Perkins funds for those, but they do have to be reused every year. So it can't be for a particular student. Funding sources wise, of course, I've talked about Perkins a lot. Next Gen is also available to you if you are a Next Gen school or a Next Gen district. And of course, that's the career readiness, the College and Career Readiness Bureau's grant that they do in addition to Perkins is the Next Gen. You can also use SEG funds, which I love saying because your school boards and your administrators are probably going to hate me for telling you this, but absolutely go advocate for your schools to be able to use the general funds that your district gets, because your district and your schools get a particular amount of general funding for the amount of students that they have going to your school. And because CTSOs and TSA are curriculum, you can use general SEG funds for to support your CTSOs. Of course, fundraising. And then we do have a few schools that do it as a lab fee. So you absolutely have that opportunity to ask your students to pay for the $22 per student as a lab fee. So there's some options for getting funding sources, but those are some of the general gist of it. Sorry. So I will definitely send you info on the Solar Sprint. Adrian, I will definitely get you information on the Champion Fund. I can actually send you that link right now. And then let me just stop share really quickly. And then a list of hybrid events. I will be solidifying the hybrid events. Right now, I can tell you that pretty much anything that's just a presentation or anything like that is going to be hybrid. And I did have an example. Where did I put that? Let me see if I can bring that up. And guys, please feel free to jump off if you need to, unless you have a question that I'm still answering, in which case, stick around. But please, I don't want to take up more of your time if I don't need to.